Lancaster Woodturners Coffee Hour number 181. Can you believe that? In Christmas week of 2023. It's the winter solstice today. There's about 9 hours of daylight here in the mid latitudes in the northern hemisphere. But it gets better from now on. Old man sun makes it back from the brink. Full moon in 5 days. I checked all the ephemera this morning just to be able to tell you all that. It's a chilly day here in New York City. And I know that because I went out for my morning walk this morning. City is changing a lot. You know, there's restaurant shacks and bike racks on every block. There's hardly anywhere to park anymore, but you can still see rats scuttling around the pizza sacks. So, you know, it's the same old place it's always been, underneath the veneer of thin veneer of civilization. Let me see. It is coffee hour. Before I turn to you guys for entertainment, I have a couple of announcements. Next Lancaster Club meeting is the day after New Year's Day, January 2nd, 7 o'clock. The next Lancaster Open Shop is 2 Saturdays from then. It's the 13th of January. And I will be putting out all the details about the Amtrak thing right after Christmas. Basically, the main thing you need to know is give us pictures of your stuff in January, so we have them by the end of January. And if you need help taking pictures, come to any club event or get in touch with me or Thomas, and we will get together with you either at a club event or some other way to help you with your pictures. But picture quality doesn't matter. Just having a picture is all we need. So you can take it with your phone. It'll work out just fine. Now, before I go to the roadshow here, since it is Christmas and Christmas presents, I wanted to talk for a minute about, discuss with you all for a minute about some of the metal doodads that we can get to make into gifties. Like here, for example, is an ice cream paddle. Now, this is Woodcraft hardware, and this particular Woodcraft hardware I like a lot. I made a lot of these. So my kids are all young teenagers, and then now that I've given their parents all the utensils they can possibly use, I can start laying it in on them as well. I say young teenagers, I mean young adults. They're all late teens, early 20s. So everybody needs their own ice cream paddle. Everybody needs their own coffee scoop. I'm trying to hold these things still in the hope that you can see them. And I wanted to talk about what outfits put out the best hardware for these kind of gifts that people make. I mean, in the Woodcraft line, and that's the only stuff I have any familiarity with, these ice cream scoops with the heavy ferrule are really nice, and they go together really well. On the other hand, these pizza lifters, which have a threaded insert that's supposed to go into the wood, do not come with any kind of a ferrule. So I wound up making a copper ferrule, and the copper ferrule has to go with a non-copper fitting, and they almost touch. I mean, I could get a battery going here and the whole thing could turn green. They ought to give you a ferrule of the like number. And the coffee dewies are not very well finished. You know, there's turning or casting sprues still on them, and they're just not as attractive as I would like them to be for the spiffy super handles I make for them. The garlic press is of dubious quality. It doesn't always close quite right. So, you know, the pizza cutter, it's a good quality heavy knife. But again, it's this ferrule business. There's this cheesy little metal insert in here. You got to screw the thing in and get the metal threads in the right place. And it involves a lot of glue. And then with this much structure going on, it's got to have a ferrule, and they don't give you one. So what do you guys know about other brands? What do you have to say about which brands are good and what brands are not good? Anybody?
I love PSI. I'm Pennsylvania's Penn State Industries down in Philly.
Yeah, I know where they are.
This season, my kids bought.
That's the same structure.
I know.
It's this one, but it's still no ferrule.
No, but it has a threaded piece down in. I have more to show you about how I made these handles if you have time. But I like their design, and I ended up buying. I don't have one here on my desk. One of the inserts that one of the guys, woodturning.com, is. I think he's printing them with a 3D printer. They're really nice to put these in because these are big 4-inch whopping things.
No, wait
I don't know, John. Yeah, these thread in. That's the nice thing.
That's what these other ones do too. And that's what I'm thinking is it's not that it's cheesy, it's just that it's incomplete without a ferrule.
You think so?
I do.
I put a bead there because I thought that was a nice thing for your hand to get it. And I
Yeah,
designed this
I do the
to,
same. I put a bead and then a ferrule.
yeah. Well, I have to think about the ferrule idea. The problem is then you have something else to get messed up when they're trying to wash it.
Yeah.
So
Anybody else? Yeah.
John, are you asking about putting an insert in that you would screw into that would be more substantial than just the screw threads from the piece?
Well, they give you an insert. No, they give you an insert in their metal threads. That part's okay. I just want a better dressed finished piece, and it seems to me it wants a ferrule. But what I'm really after is, are there any other brands that are better than what we can get from Woodcraft or PSI? I don't have any familiarity with Rockler. Maybe there's some other small brands of this stuff you guys know about.
I have, this is Tim Sieber, if you can see me. I
Yeah.
just got down to my shop. I'm in the middle of making a screwdriver. This is Rockler. It comes with the ferrule.
Ah,
So I've made several of these and given them away. Nobody has reported back any breakage. It's one of those.
yeah. That's what I'm wanting is the ferrule along with the metal insert. Yeah, I don't want to make a copper ferrule if I don't have to.
Yeah, so these have worked well. Now, some of the other things that Rockler has do not come with a ferrule, but this particular screwdriver does. It's about $12 for the kit.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. So we're all on the same sources for these. Oh, I see Mike talking. What are you saying, Mike? You're muted.
No, I guess I was grimacing.
Oh,
I've made a few of the screwdrivers, but you know, I guess I'm not real big on kits. I just feel like, I mean, $12 for a screwdriver seems to me like a lot of money. I would rather find a piece of wood and make something else. Now, an awl, for example, if you make an awl, that costs you virtually nothing, and there's no kit involved. You buy some spring steel from Amazon. You get a lifetime supply for not much more than you'd pay for an expensive pizza kit, and you can make awls all day long, and they're great for anybody with a toolbox. Coffee scoop, to me, why you'd want to buy a metal thing to stick on a wooden handle instead of making it all out of wood, which I think would be valued more because it would be so distinctive and doesn't look like it's half store-bought. But that's I don't want to sound like an elitist, but that's my viewpoint anyway.
That's a pretty good viewpoint. I like that viewpoint. I might try adopting that and see how it works for me.
I have to agree with you, Mike, on that. I make a lot of coffee scoops, and the wooden ones are everybody just loves them, and they get rid of their steel ones, and they always use they use them in their cocoa tins and their coffee bins. They just love them. They make them small enough so they'll fit in with the lid.
Yeah. Well, I tried to make a Raffin style scoop to go with a salt dish I was making for somebody, and I completely messed it up. There's something going on there that I don't yet understand.
Yeah, they getting those walls right that are a challenge. I guess you got to turn thousands of them like Richard did before it, gets easy.
Try making a.
Brazeau's got something he's been trying to show us. What do you got, Michael?
I can't find myself on here. I've got it. This is a Penn State shoehorn.
Okay, that's again the metal pieces.
Yeah, it's brass, and then it comes with a knob for the end.
Okay.
And they also have a back scratcher. So I've made lots of these just as hostess gifts. And all my relatives have got a shoehorn by the front door now.
Okay. Anybody else on this?
Yeah, I'm not a purist, so on my pizza cutter, I use Corian. And therefore, once you get cheese all over the pizza cutter, you can dump it in the dish pan, wash it up good, and you don't have to worry about saturating the wood.
I'm going to count on Osmo for that.
How do you make a wooden pizza cutter since you want to make everything out of wood?
You don't. Well, maybe you can. I've seen them. They used to make them. I bet you can.
I don't know, but I know that one thing happened is that when you start doing this kind of thing, it's a whole new pieces and bits that you have to put on the lathe to make it work. So I was never a pen turner, but now I think I got all the devices that I'm going to need if I ever want to make a pen. But you know, the collets and the everything else. It was fun. I enjoyed it. So.
Anybody else on the quality of hardware or choices or things, alternatives? I've made my last metal coffee scoop. I can tell you that right now. I don't know why it didn't occur to me. Yeah, of course I can make one of those out of wood.
John, the one thing that I want to point out is these cutters are all different shapes at the top.
Yeah.
So if you get a parking device, I can't keep it in. If you get a parking device, you have to get it for that specific scoop. I ordered two from Niles, and they don't fit. They're a different shape because their cutters are different. So you have to make sure you get PSI. The guy at woodturning.com, he knows the various shapes, and you order as per your device.
I think I'm going to make that. If I'm going to make one of those, if I want one of those, I'm going to make it.
One of these.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't have time to make it, but yeah.
Now the chat is full of comments on all this, so I invite you to take a look at it. Yeah.
John, while we're on it, I'd like to show just a couple pictures about how I made these handles.
Yeah, let me go through some of these other guys and come back to you. Is that okay?
That's fine. Yeah, I just need a couple minutes, maybe at the end or something.
Yeah, I know there's some stuff coming up here that's going to be kind of interesting. So let's start with Dawn, who always has some good Christmas things.
Right. The first thing is I made an ornament.
You sure did.
But it's 4 feet.
Hold him still now. Hold him up so we can see him and back far enough. So just hold him still. I want to see the feet too. Yeah.
He's like a stool.
No, it's not still. There's the diameter of the head and the body.
What did you make him out of?
Sorry?
What did you make him out of?
This is made out of ash, all ash, except for the head, which was made out of sycamore with the little horns and the ears.
Is he mostly green or is he dry?
He was green, but when I've turned it, it's probably 3/4 of the way to being completely seasoned.
So, I mean, how heavy is it? It looks like he's a heavy fellow.
He is quite heavy still, yeah. Yeah, the body is 9 inches long and 3.5 inches diameter.
So did you make drawings for that or did you just shoot for it?
There is a drawing for it, yes.
And is that your drawing and do you have it?
I have the drawing on my computer. I'll send you a copy and then you can paste it on.
All right.
And then the last thing I want to show you is a Christmas present I've just finished.
Whoa.
Wow. Did you glue up that as a full ring and then remove pieces or how did you do that?
Right, there's 10 pieces on here, not 12. 36-degree angles. You've got walnut and beech. And round here, where I cut it out, I just used any old scrap wood because I knew I was going to cut them out.
But if that's a clock, why would you put 10 pieces instead of 12?
Because I only want a semicircle. And so that I could get it down through the center.
All right, yeah.
That looks very nice.
Very handsome.
Thank you.
There's another exception to the hardware. You can't make the clock by yourself. Well,
No.
some guys would, but I can't.
No, the clock can't. I bought those from Craft Supplies when they were still going. And that's the last clock I have out of the 24 that I originally bought. But that's,
Wow.
So you've made 24 clocks, in other words.
I've made 24 different styles of clocks over the years, yes.
Okay.
I think if you were to make those and sell them, I think you'd get a mint for those things.
I don't know what it'd be. What is it? $1.50 to the pound?
$1.25 maybe.
$1.25, so you're 25, about 36 quid.
So what's quid mean? Oh, what's a quid
Pounds.
value?
Quids are
English
Oh,
pounds.
pounds. Okay. I'm sorry. You keep
A quid.
switching the on me.
And then the base is just an ordinary piece of beech again to match in with the beech of the clock. The main part of the clock is also in black walnut, as is the finial and the pieces that go through the middle.
25 quid, $25 is actually 16 or 17 quid, not 35, guys.
Well, wait a minute, more to the point though, if you were to sell that, Don, what would you sell it for? And what do you guys who make these things in this country, what would you sell that for? What are we looking at here?
Well, I'd be lucky if I got more than 25, but I tried to sell them for about 30 quid.
Okay.
30 pounds.
Now, how about Rich Colvin? You were talking to that. What do you think that ought to sell for?
That wasn't me talking, but I don't think I would make them and sell them for that little.
No, I wouldn't either. How about you, Toby? You sell stuff.
I have no idea. I never made something like that, so I wouldn't know what the price of that.
Anybody here?
But
Anybody
anybody in
Well,
America, 35
original.
quid, $50, guys. I mean, I would want a lot more than $50 for that in the American market.
Okay, well, what would you put if you made those, Doug? What would you price it at?
I'd be starting at 75 at the minimum.
That's
Yeah.
So
still
what's the
kinda
clock
skinny to
cost?
me.
One of the problems over here is that you can go to a craft fair and they look at it and say, it's very nice, but too pricey, and off they walk.
Well,
Yeah.
you would get that over here to some extent too, but there's a lot of people who will look at it and say, "Well, that's pretty original and very unique." Like
Yeah.
that would be worth about 75.
Yeah.
You know,
Don, what did the clock cost? What the clock cost you itself, the mechanism?
The clock at the time cost me £2.
Oh, okay.
The clock is 2.5 inches diameter,
Okay.
and it's, if you can highlight it just for a moment, John.
Yeah, you're on the speaker anyway. The speaker will get it, but there you go. Okay, so that's it. Rotate it a little bit so we can see the back and the front.
There's the back,
I see.
side,
Yeah.
and the front.
Okay.
So you just friction fit it so you can pull it out to change the battery?
Right. I
Okay.
don't know if you can see this. See these little, where my
Yeah,
finger is, there's a little spring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
There's
holds
3
it.
of those springs around it. So you make certain that when you make it, that those springs are pressed in as you press it into the
Yeah.
piece.
Yeah, that holds it in.
And that just holds it in.
it even has a certain degree of elegance to it. Even
Thank you. What, the clock?
the clock, yes, it's very nice because you look at the clock, like even when you see some cars, like let's say the older cars with the clocks in the dash, they
Yeah,
kind of have a certain elegance to them.
yeah,
Like that to me, it kind of seems like the same type of thing. Like it has a certain elegance. It would be at the very least a very good conversation piece when someone comes to your house. They'll look at it and say, "Oh, that's a nice clock. Where did you get that?" You know?
Sure. Yeah.
that's where I sell most of my things when they're special like that.
Yeah.
By purely somebody going into somebody's house and seeing it on their mantelpiece over the fireplace, and they say, "Oh, that's nice. Where'd you get it?" Oh, well, that's it.
Originality is everything, right, Don? Because when you let's say if you went on Amazon and you seen those clocks for let's say $8.99, Well, there's a million of them on there, right? So you look at something like that. Well, if there's only one or very few, well, I mean, that's kind of worth a bit of money right there.
Yeah, I
Right.
agree with you. It's trying to get the people to put short hands in the very long pockets.
Yeah.
Anybody else on this, or I'm gonna move us along?
David, I want to compliment you in using the word elegance. That's something we ought to use more. I think that's a good way to describe our art. You know,
Yeah.
it's not dog dishes, it's elegant balls.
Well, yeah, it also jacks up the price in its own way, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, if you are of a mind where you want to sell, I'm not, so I don't care about any of that, so.
Yeah.
Well,
Fair enough.
I think one of the good points here is that you're making something unique. You maybe you're just making boxes and they look all approximately the same, but as you use different woods, spalted woods and different woods that have character in them, each one is unique. And like I said, they may be all the same shape, but people will grab something that looks different because of the wood and the grain or figure in it. Good point.
Absolutely. And the other thing too is if you had a clock like that, and let's say if you used distressed wood and stuff like that, when you do that stuff like that, that people are really turned on by as well.
Yeah, they like distressed wood, they like spalted wood, they like the stuff that yeah.
And to your point, you can walk into a lot of places in America and buy something like that that's been made in China for $20. If you want to buy that for $20, go there and buy it. If you want something that's unique, as you're saying, go to a craftsman.
So don't
don't
underprice your work, I think is the overriding lesson out of all that.
Well, thanks for all your comments. Thanks for all your comments. Much appreciated.
Well, thank you for always bringing something interesting. We got some more guys on here who also always bring something interesting, so I'm going to go to Gerry Snelson.
We'll get that drawing to you.
Yes, please do. Gerry, what do you got today?
I'd like to share a screen and show you something.
Yeah, please. Gerry, Christmas stuff.
Completes what I showed you last week. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yep.
You probably can't tell that they're on a lazy Susan, but I like to say they met on a lazy Susan and they've been going around together ever since.
And they're both smokers, right?
These are both German smokers. They both lift off at the waist or around there. The smoking piece of incense sits on a table that's built into about their center, and they're the one on the right is the one I'm showing you, featuring that one because you've seen the other one. She's made out of a piece of wood that Garrett gave me and gave a lot of people, and I'm not sure what it is, but they look a bit like bottles. They've been semi-turned by somebody, and he had a bunch of them available, and so I took some, and that's what she's made of mostly. These heads come off, and the smoke comes out their mouth, as you can imagine.
And you put a little metal shrink in there for the incense, don't you?
Yes, yeah, you have to. A bottle cap works, or a lid of something that's metal. You don't want to sit.
A little candle, a little metal can once the candle's burned out.
Right. Yeah. Otherwise, you'll just burn out your German smoker. He'll smoke for a different reason. So that let's see if I can put that away and show you well, never mind. That's a good enough picture. That's really all I wanted to show this week. Thanks for letting me do that.
Questions or comments for Gerry?
Gerry, you just gave me an idea. I have a box full of blanks from the Reverend Brubaker that everybody talks about in Lancaster, who turned a lot. Doug knows about him too. I think there's some relation going on there. But anyways, I've been wondering what to do with these blanks. I think I'm going to take one of them and turn it into one of these character drawers that you were doing.
Yeah, I'm going to make one of these smokers as well. I like them.
If you want the instruction on them, Colwyn Way, on YouTube. He's last couple of years he's made German smokers, and he's a really good teacher. So he's with Axminster Tools.
Yeah.
And Coal Wind Way. Highly recommend.
He promotes those fishtail style German skews, which are very nice to use too.
I have them, and I use them a lot, but they're very, very light compared to my Carter and Son.
Yeah.
They're just a totally different feel to them. It takes some skill and some care when you're learning how to use them.
Jerry, have you ever made one with a pipe in the mouth that actually did the smoke, or doesn't that work?
You have to imagine the smoke coming through a little tube that is part of a pipe, and that's I use usually the pipe I put is in the hand of the smoker, so you can imagine he just took a puff of it and is exhaling it.
Yeah, it needs a bigger opening. Yeah. And I've been including Jerry's video.
Thank you.
I'm including Jerry's video from a couple of years ago on our invites the last 2 weeks. So if any of you haven't watched that, it's a real treat of to see his whole range of nativities and smokers and nutcrackers. Thank you, Jerry. Duxbury, we haven't seen you in a while. What do you have to
do
say?
that? I appreciate it.
Oh, great. Yeah, it's great to be back. I have to share where to go. I have to share a screen here, and I think you'll like this.
I get more comments on the YouTube videos about Duxbury than anybody else. People say, "Oh, bring more." Where's this Duxbury guy? He's terrific.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll tell you. I think you'll like this. I found that low RPM sanding works better. This is probably my 4th video or something, and it shows. But let's try this. Did that come up?
Yeah, we got it.
Yep.
I'm the last guy in the third. Welcome to Jim's boardroom. Today I'm going to show my 20-inch disc sander. This is mounted on the Powermatic 3520A. It's got about a 6-inch cast iron faceplate, a 3/4 inch piece of MDF, and a 1/2 inch piece of MDF. All screwed and glued together. It works fabulous. If you ever do this, make sure you tighten at least one of the set screws in that faceplate under the shaft, because the inertia of this, if you're running it very fast, when you turn it off, can spin it off the lathe, and it's not nice. Ask me how I know that. There's many advantages to doing this. Number one, it doesn't take up floor space. I don't have that much floor space. Number two, a disc sander costs about $3,000. This thing probably cost me $100. And the best part is, it works better. The disc sander runs at 1720 RPM. That's fabulous for grinding metals and whatever. On wood, it generates too much heat. And you can do it, if you do it lightly, spritz it with water and that sort of thing, that works. But this thing now, I found out, you don't even need a dust collector. If this was going 2000 RPM, I'd have dust all over the place. This is probably running at 200 RPM. You could do your fingernails on here. I put a mark on here, 1/8 of an inch. This is a piece of 1.5 inch by 2 ash. Nice piece of wood. But instead of just standing on this thing, if you put some pressure on it, I've taken 1 inch or 1/8 of an inch off of here. Better than that, there's no dust. The dust is such big granulars, it falls down. It's all down here. There's a bunch of it. It works great. I love it. If it generates too much heat, you can spritz that with water and then add some more. To keep the disc nice and clean, And I think you really like it. Have a great one.
Questions for Jim?
Anyway,
Where do you get a piece of sandpaper that large?
Klingspor. They make them for 20-inch sanders. They're $20 or something. That's an
What
80
grit?
80 grit, I think.
Yeah.
In fact, I think there were 2 for $30 or something. It's self-stick kind of thing. I'm not too sure how I'm going to get it off of there, but anyway, it really works. Like I say, it's low RPM. You don't even need a dust collector. That thing at 2,000 RPM, well, that'll turn at 3,000 RPM if I want it. And I'll tell you, that really removes wood, but there's a cloud of dust that you can't imagine. But at about 200 RPM, that thing sands so slow and the granulars are so big, it just falls down. Also makes excellent wood putty. Those big granulars, oh God, scoop those up and put them in a little bag, different colors. And you can do wood filler. It makes all kinds of neat stuff. But just another concept, another Duxbury, I guess. Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody. Have a Merry Christmas.
Could I hear comments, Mr. Duxbury? Your comment about it getting too hot and spritzing it is absolutely dead on. You're actually changing the structure of your wood if you push too hard. So making sure your wood stays cool when you're sanding. A lot of people think, well, if I just push it harder and it'll sand faster. No, you're just burning the surface off. And you can actually see in cherry and some of those things that where the structure changes significantly if you do that just on the surface. So you have to be very careful not to push too hard on that stuff.
Well, I found if you've got sharp sandpaper, it's grinding it off fast enough at low speed that you don't build up that much heat. High speed on cherry will break it. I mean, it just plain makes too much heat. But I found at low speed, I can do pretty good with it.
Absolutely right. Dead nuts on, as far as I'm concerned. I never put my sander, even when I run the bowls, I never go over 400 RPM. In fact, I try to go down to make 100 or 200 RPM, even if I'm sanding on a finished bowl. That's right. Yeah. Really works great. Use good sandpaper. When you can see the grit from both sides, get rid of it. Yeah. You know, you just got to use good sandpaper.
Dux, you just cost me again. I'm gonna have to buy a Varivac or whatever you call it to regulate my 12-inch sander because it's running at 1,700 or whatever. So now I got to figure out a way to slow it down because putting the sander on, I have one, a 20-inch one on my lathe, but putting it on and off is a piece of work. And also, I have not been able to get it absolutely flat. I'm gonna probably have to use a MDF and see if that works.
Comes out dead flat. I've used it many times. In fact, that's what I use it for a lot of times. But it's just a different concept, and it's cheap.
Inch thick millimeter plywood's pretty flat too.
Yeah. If you're worried about dead flat, John, Jim, just take a long piece or a 20-inch piece of sandpaper and sand your board as it's turning before you put the paper on it.
Yeah, 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 right.
That'll be flat. Yep. Anybody else on this?
Jim?
Yeah.
If you need to replace that pressure stick sandpaper, it's easy to do with a heat gun.
Oh, thank you. Fabulous.
A heat gun and a fairly stiff putty knife.
Putty knife and a heat gun, yeah.
Really? Okay.
Take it right off.
Right.
Fabulous. Okay.
Anybody else on this? Okay, moving right along here. Gerry Lindberg, haven't heard from you in a long time, if at all.
Oh, yeah. Good morning.
Good morning.
Just trying to get this organized here. Sorry, I don't think the camera's all that great here. But a while ago there was a mention of Caragana, and I saw this project on YouTube that I thought would be very good for it. So there's a,
hold still, yeah.
sorry, it's a lot of color in the top.
That's nice ornament. Caragana, is that, you mean that's the wood?
That's the wood, yeah, the bowl part is Caragana.
And that's
And
an
I
Alberta,
just used some
an Alberta
mystery wood for the finials.
That's an Alberta wood, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if there's
I think
another name for it.
I'm not sure. So that was just one Christmas ornament that I had made, and I made another one that was out of redwood burrow.
Hold it up a little higher so we can see the finial. That's a really nice finial.
Oh, sorry, it moves around quite a bit, a little unsteady here.
Very nice. Is that hollow, the ball?
Yes, it is hollow, yes. And just out of a pen blank, one more.
Haha, nice.
Just a little
Well,
icicle.
Yeah.
It's a little big and heavy. I'd like to be able to make it a little bit lighter, and smaller, but next time.
You have to figure out how to make it hollow.
Oh boy, yeah, I guess I could drill it out, I guess maybe, but at any rate, I just wanted to thank everybody for joining in the group, and have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much.
Merry Christmas.
Same to you.
Thank you.
Ziegler, what do you got today?
Well, I spoke to the club about this past month, but I went down to North Carolina to take some classes with David Ellsworth, and he's a pretty interesting guy, as folks that have met him know. John's a friend with him, and probably others there. So my first bowl I did down there was a cut rim bowl, and I haven't finished it or sanded it. David doesn't sand stuff in his shop because it generates too much dust. But the figure is really interesting inside of it. And so when I finally get around to sanding it and then finishing it, I'll bring it back. But I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of figure I really can enhance with a finish. So
Beautiful piece of wood.
Yeah, it is a pretty piece of wood. So then I had never made a natural edge bowl, so I tried a few of them. I brought a piece of wood home from him that I started but couldn't finish. I showed this to John the other day. So I made this little fella. And my foot got a little bit smaller than I wanted to, because as I was trimming the foot, I had a little catch and backed up the bowl, so I had to cut it thinner. Fortunately, it didn't go through. So that was probably my third or fourth natural edge bowl.
I like that little foot. I know your wife doesn't, but you could just grind it off and make a little flat place there, and everybody'd be happy with that.
Yeah, although as I look at it, it looks a little silly sitting on a table like this, but I thought maybe if I made a black base for it or something, that it might give it a perch and look pretty precarious, which might add some tension to the whole thing. It might be interesting. Not all that fancy, but I made a cherry bowl for my potential future, I guess I'd call them in-laws. My daughter's fiance's parents are coming. So I made them, it's cherry bowl. And then for Livia's fiance, he thinks he's going to break ice with this. I think he's crazy, but he wanted me to make a mallet. So I made a mallet for him.
Very, very nice.
So the last thing, I've also been distracted, among other things. I got a laser. Patty got me a laser for an early Christmas present. So I've been playing with that. Last year, I turned a baseball bat into ash, a small one for a friend of mine. But I was really afraid to try to wood burn any kind of logos or anything in it, because I knew that the wood burning would skip over the ash grain. So I'm working right now to create a Louisville Slugger ripoff, if you will, but with different words and everything, and the signature block at the end. So when I get that done, I will bring it back and show you. I also made it for my friend some coasters, obviously not wood turning. And then I've been playing around with decorations, which are pretty straightforward. Everybody makes them, but
hold still. Stop. Wait, stop. You're going too fast. Hold that up. Hold that back up. So that's laser cut with that Dewey that you bought, that your wife gave you?
Yeah. Yep.
And what's
that's
it?
laser.
What's it called and what's it look like?
This is an X-Tool D1 Pro, and it has a rotary attachment that lets you put round objects on it. So again, I'll put the baseball bat on it. I did make a few tests that I'm still working on getting it right. The unfortunate thing, I guess, is that the learning curve for some of the software actually takes, you know, when you touch the lathe, there's a different kind of learning curve. It's tangible. You're touching something. With the laser, it's sort of a, you know, there's this thing you go through called a computer. And so I need to learn the software to produce the images, then I need to learn the software that you use to control the laser itself. It's just a frame. People that have seen it, it's about 24 inches square. And then there's a, I'm sure, I can't think of what it's called, but it slides back and forth and, you know, in two directions.
XY.
The sled. And so that will, you know, and then you just control how deep you're going to burn something or cut it, depending upon what your piece of wood is or whatever you're working with. And then this is just a kind of a gag for a friend of mine that retired, but you can engrave it on slate. So between the wood turning and the laser, I think I've got my future full of work.
John, that's not a CNC machine, right?
No, it's a diode laser. It's not a real fancy one. I think on sale it cost $1,100, so they're not inexpensive. But there's actually some collateral costs because it does generate smoke. So I need to build a smoke enclosure, and I have an inline fan that I need to exhaust to the outside because it'll choke you out of the garage or the shop if you burn wood.
Wow. So that's a much bigger commitment than I thought. I thought that these little things just sat there and you didn't have to do anything, and they weren't $1,100 either.
Well, so I mean, they do have little, you know, little ones you can make. You know, they're probably this big, 6 inches square, but this is a little bit bigger. And I got it. My wife said that's an awful lot of money to spend to make a baseball bat for your friend Bo. But you know, I'm going to do other things with it. Clearly not dealing with wood turning all that much, but I thought it would kind of expand the kind of stuff that I like to do. And between wood turning and the laser, and sometimes combining it like I will with this bat, I'm having a heck of a good time out in the shop.
And Rich Coleman says that in fact that is a CNC machine. It's just moving a laser rather than a cutter.
Well, yeah, in that regard is correct.
Computer numeric control.
Yeah. Yep.
Questions for Ziegler? Anybody got a question or comment? Okay, I'm going to move us along. I got 3 more people who want to show things today. Mike Brazeau, you're up next.
Yeah, it just when Don brought the clock up, we used to have a dealer here in Toronto that sold the Craft Supplies UK stuff. And I bought this 20 years ago. And one day,
hold it up where we can see it. Hold it still.
And
stop waving it around. Hold it still.
Okay. Well.
Okay.
So this is the back.
Nice.
This was just a dead apple limb, and so I can't remember how I started it, but drill a hole with a Forstner for this, and then you could put the jaws in here through the back. It's a great clock. It keeps amazing time. I'm sure you can still buy something like this on Amazon. You know, as Don says, very simple.
Right. Very nice. Questions for Mike? Okay. Randy.
Hi, John.
Hi, Randy.
And everybody. I don't have anything to show, but I wanted to tell everybody who's in the Lancaster Club, the Susquehanna Woodturners have been invited again to demonstrate wood turning at the Pennsylvania State Farm Show. Now, in Pennsylvania, this is a big deal. It is one of the biggest farm shows in the United States. And we will be doing a demonstrating of wood turning. We do have a sign-up sheet out on Google Docs, and we are inviting anybody who is in the Lancaster area woodturners to join us and to demonstrate wood turning. We will also have a display case at the farm show. It's about 5 foot wide and probably about 6 or 7 feet tall. Mostly smaller items, but there are some places where we can put larger items, but limited to about 12 inches or so. Also, if you sign up to come to to demonstrate at the farm show, and you do not have to demonstrate, we try to have 2 people there at all times, one to speak to the crowd and one to actually do wood turning. The farm show runs, I believe, from the 6th of January to the 13th. We'll be setting up in the morning of January 5th. We'll be setting up a lathe and everything that we need. We try to keep sanding to a minimum because, we don't want to get sanding dust all over the place. Also, if you do demonstrate, we will have parking vouchers, so you do not have to pay to park. And so I will send that to John. Who should I send that to have it distributed to Lancaster?
Tom Wenzel.
Tom, okay.
Yeah, send it to Tom
All
Wenzel. And let me see, how many rotation slots are there for that you want then? How many time slots do you want to fill? Like 10, 12?
We have, I'm not sure. I didn't look at it this morning. We do have 2 time slots each day. One is from 9 o'clock in the morning till about 2 o'clock, and then from 2 o'clock to about 8 o'clock.
And didn't you get COVID there last year?
Yes, I did.
Got it.
Ho, ho, ho.
Yeah, really. Ho, ho, ho.
Okay.
Thank you, Santa, for giving me COVID.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bowman, you're on. Jim?
Yeah, yes. I'm going to share a screen here.
Okay.
Do you know what? Do you see it?
Yeah.
Let me get it full screen here. You see what it is?
I don't see why I'm looking at it.
This when I'm pouring epoxy, you never quite get it exactly right, and you don't want to waste any. So I have a bunch of these little yogurt containers in my shop, and I keep a bin by my bandsaw that I throw all the cutoffs in, going, hey, if it's got figure in, I might stick it in one of these. So I had a bunch of these had poured with different things, and I go, I need 4 inches, 4.5, 5 inches to turn a pizza handle. So I go, wait a minute, I can glue these together. So the first 2, I bored in and put a little epoxy to a little dowel in the middle.
Back up for a second. In other words, you're using these yogurt cans to contain your epoxy, and then those are like pieces of cardboard or tin on top to hold it in. Is that what's going on?
No, this is actually the ends. In other words, I don't have a picture of it. I would pour it like they're standing up, like you eat the yogurt.
Yeah.
And then they sat there, and then I just sanded the bottom so they're flat, that they would fit together. And then I bored them out and put a dowel in, and I used 5-minute epoxy and glued them in and glued them together. And the first 2, I said, that's a lot of work. Plus, if you have epoxy, it lets you show, you might end up drilling in where you will see that thing. And I go, I wonder if 5-minute epoxy is strong enough that I just smack 2 of them together. It is, trust me. I have turned and banged around, and so I'm going to show you what I did.
Yeah. Where does this go?
It goes to, let me get rid of the share for now, but I have one other thing I wanted to show you, but let me stop my share. It goes to this kind of stuff. Now, this is
wait a minute. Hold that still in front of your face so we can see what you're talking about, please.
Hang on. I had to get the right one up, and I have to keep it in. These things are sharp. I have to keep it in the foil. Okay, this is where it ended up at. That's two of the yogurt containers glued together, end to end.
So where's the epoxy and where's the wood?
Well, right here's epoxy.
Okay.
Here's wood. Over here's some more epoxy. Down here, and it depends on how big I'm sorry, it keeps turning the wrong direction.
You just have to hold it still. Quit.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to move it at the same time. By the way, those PSI ones have this neat little chrome thing on the end too. But that is two of those yogurt containers glued together right here with epoxy, 5-minute epoxy. I'm going to switch, John. Don't get worried. I'm going to switch to the other one. Now this one was again, you can see this Osage orange, and right here in the middle is where I glued it together. Now this one, you see, this is what made me quit using the peg inside, because you see it. Plus, occasionally that epoxy squishes out, and I think the other side is, let me get it lined up again. It squishes out and then you see it. So that's also why I quit using the pegs. I'm just slapping them together. Now this one, John, I don't have the foil on it, but I'll take care. This one, I poured in what I want to show you, the form, because this is part of the conversation we had. So it's mostly wood with a little epoxy on the side. Still a nice little detail. Now I'm going to go back to share screen because I want to show you how I did this one. Gosh, let me quit again.
Let's go to the next picture. No?
Hang on.
Y'all know when I get around to editing this, I'll cut all this dithering around out.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I'm talking. I can't talk and do things at the same time, as you might guess, but I'm going to share my screen again and do this, share that. And now I want to show you this. Not that, this one. We had this conversation. I think Don actually gave me the idea, or one of you guys did. I was having trouble with my forms. This is a 2-inch PVC pipe with a rubber stopper cap on the end. And I sprayed it severely with mold release, used clamps on it, put a little epoxy. You can't really see it, it's clamped that tight, but there's a little silicone right up through that middle. Now I'm going to show you what it's like when it's apart. I think I am. Here it is. So, couple learnings. You have to, I'm a little too schmutzy, we would say in Lancaster County. It's hard to get that silicone, the silicone on carefully so it doesn't get on the mold itself. I had the mold release on, but this popped right apart. I sprayed it down in the bottom. I took the clamps off. I had to cut I also, when I pour, it runs over the edge sometimes, and it epoxied the rubber faster, but I got it off and popped it open. So it works. I haven't done it on a 4-inch one yet because that's my next project, but I have to wait till after the holidays. So that's my way. I feel like you guys have really helped me get this mold thing figured out for this kind of thing. Now, I ordered some 1.5-inch ones because your handles for the pizza cutter are really only at the max about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches if you have a bead or something on the end. So I'm wasting a lot of epoxy, plus I'm also spending a lot of time turning that. You can't hog epoxy, at least I can't. It chips like crazy if you get too aggressive. So you make ribbons and cut it out. So that was an idea of what you're doing. It's sitting on my latest project, which is making platters for my kids for the holidays. I have to finish off the thing it's sitting on. So, any questions?
Can I comment as a longtime friend of Jim's,
Oh,
having known him since before he even picked up a lathe, I warned him when he was starting to wood turn that he would disappear down the rabbit hole. And he's gone so far down the rabbit hole these days, I can't even see him anymore.
Doug, you know, when you're
able to see it experimenting with this stuff, Jim, it's just been a joy watching.
Well, I have so much fun doing it. I'm more of a maker than a turner, I guess, and I'm not a very good jig maker. Like I'm not a machinist and an engineer, but I have fun with it. Doug, you know the advantage of being way down the rabbit hole? The hunters can't shoot you.
Hey, Jim, one of the things you can do for your molds, or you could consider using, is find a sheet of puckboard, HDPE. It's high density polyethylene sheet.
Yeah.
And a heat gun, and you just warm it up a little bit, and you can turn it to whatever diameter tube you want and put your same hose clamps on. Then you don't have to use release agent or anything. Nothing sticks to HDPE. That's what a lot of people use with epoxy.
And I think that those tips that Sherry Willits brought us a couple of weeks ago about using that coral ply is a really good idea as well.
Yeah, Sherry mentioned it, but I tell you, I just want something that's rugged. I don't have to fuss with. I can throw it up in my jig rack when
And
I'm
you're
done
making them
with
all
it.
you're not after a wide variety of shapes. You're just in.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you're
No,
just in
I haven't.
plumbing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jim, I have a question. Do you use the yogurt as a mold release?
No, I wash. My job at the house is Lynn does the cooking, but I do the cleanup. So I wash them very well. I haven't tried yogurt. I'd rather eat it than put it as a mold release. So, but I don't know. That mold release business is I think a somewhat of a money racket. I hear people using Pam and all that stuff. But yeah,
we got a couple minutes left here, and Jonathan Wilson had his hand up and put it down again, so I assume he's got a lot of show for another day. And Duxbury's got something quick. So what do you got, Duxbury? Those last two things you said you had.
Okay, this is quick. I turned some spatulas.
There you go, metal parts.
What did that come up?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I turned some spatulas. These are kind of fun to turn. Make them in different colors. I was buying wood from a guy that made high-end gun stocks. I buy the colored wood, it's dyed birch. And one of the reasons I wanted to show this is this red one, especially on the end here, as I was turning it, I turn these pretty fast. And one of the good reasons of wearing a face shield is that delaminated and bounced off my face shield. And it's a good feeling to have that on. I looked all over the shop and found a piece and glued it back on. But from the red on up, that's about a 5-inch piece by 1.5 by half, come off and bounce right off my face shield.
What do you mean when you say you were turning that pretty fast? What's pretty fast to you?
About 30,000.
Okay.
Well, I do production turning, and that's not to get it done fast. You just get a better cut, and especially on the paddle end here, you don't have as much airspace in between. You can see what's happening.
Got it.
So that's one of the things, and I also make bread knives. These blades are off a Hobart bread slicing machine. You get them in the grocery store. These are the replacement blades for the thing. And oh God, are they sharp? I tell you, they are just wicked.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, they sell unreal. I don't know how many of these. I make hundreds of these a year.
You make righties and lefties as well?
Yes, I do. Amazing you said that. I made about a half a dozen of these things, and the first guy walked in with said his daughter was left-handed and she loves to bake bread. And I said, I'll be damned. I had them all screwed on the other way. But anyway, there's a center on the end here. And when this is all solid wood all the way across, and there's a center on this end, and you turn the handle, and then you put a riser, a little block on your bandsaw, and you can cut these out really nice and sand them up. Anyway, kind of a fun project.
Nice project. Yeah.
I make them in pairs too sometimes.
Those are, I like the strategy there, the center layer with the scales glued on to give you the handle. That's the way of doing it. All right.
Yeah. It uses a 1/2 inch. You can get away with a little less than 1/2 inch, but usually it's about a 1/2 inch. And I make a template for this thing so that I can lay them out quick. In fact, I have templates for everything.
You would.
What if a guitar string would cut bread? You got a metal guitar string, whether
No,
you
it would
could,
not. It would not.
It
You need some teeth to cut bread.
okay.
This thing has teeth. In fact, I could show one, but anyway, this is what are these things called? A spline cover, something you put on the edge of paper to bind them up or something. Book spline or something. I don't know, but we buy 1,000 of them for $10 or something. You have to cut them to length, but I slip it on there because I'll tell you, I get cut just screwing the thing on the doggone harp.
Yeah.
They are, if you even look at the thing, you get blood running all over.
Jim, you're talking about those things that hold a plastic book report together when we were kids, right?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. I don't know what you call them, but anyway, they work great as a protection.
Thank you all. Very delightful.
Merry
Happy Christmas to everyone. And Kwanzaa and whatever else you want to celebrate this time of year. And I will try and see you all next week. If I'm unable to be on, I'll ask probably Mike Peace and Bowman to hold the floor. And if that's okay with you guys. And we'll see. I think we'll see you all next week.
Well, in case we don't see you, John, Happy New Year to you.
See you. Happy
Yeah.
Christmas.
Bye.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Talk to you later, Jim.
Weihnachten.
Talk to you later, Jim.
Take care.
Yeah. See you, Don.
Merry Christmas.
See ya.
Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas all.
Merry Christmas to you all.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.